Oh, come on, man.
Excuse me?
A great library, like a great bookstore, can open your eyes to a universe of mysteries, fantastic journeys, and epic adventures. When you open that door, like life, it's impossible to know what awaits. I'm Lindsay Schultz, owner of the Spine Bookshop, author and book dragon, and keeper of the banned Book Brigade. I can ship the latest titles in your favorite genre anywhere in the continental U.S., with discounts for veterans, teachers, first responders, and librarians, and so much more. Or stop in at my shop, 244 South Lowry Street, Smyrna, Tennessee, for tea and coffee, to browse and chat. Or visit us online at thespinebookshop.com. Or call 615-768-9833. Illuminate your mind. The Spine Bookshop. We match books to people. Thespinebookshop.com.
All right, this hour of Well Actually with Lindsay and Bill brought to you by the Spine Bookshop. The Spine Bookshop, helping Congress and Democrats have an actual spine since 2024. Welcome to the show. Hey, before we start, this program is very often a work born from frustration, parody, and opinion. Consult a doctor or mental health professional if you exhibit any of the following symptoms, taking any of this too seriously or personally, or if you have the urge to ban what is said in this program, or if you've ever said these words, honey, hold my beer while I vote at the drive-thru. Or you can just try banging some sense into your skull with a skillet or frying pan. Failing that, just try getting a damn life. So we've been planning a show all week, and Lindsay is kind of an emotional mess with a really heartbreaking issue with a foster dog that attacked their other dog in the house. We'll tell you all about it when she comes back next week. In the meantime, um, I finished Sins of the Sire by our good friend Dan Klefstad. Um, book two in his Fiona Guardians trilogy. I can't wait for book three now. Uh, did he just change a significant paradigm in vampire culture or fiction? Um, you're going to have to get the book to find out. It's a significant step in all things vampire related, but I couldn't put the book down. It's a really terrific book. Well done, Dan. We're going to have him and his co-host uh, on in just a couple weeks here. In the meantime, I've been working heavily with AI. I did a panel last month at the Imaginarium convention in Louisville about keeping the human element and whether or not AI would replace us. It's a valid question, right? And there's some significant pressures on that very issue. Um, I thought, in lieu of Lindsay being here, that I would give you a brief tour on what is possible with AI with some cautionaries about everything that I've found and face using it day in and day out. So whether or not you were against the use of AI in the arts, there are some realities which are simply there. On the plus side, uh, is a significant time saving factor. The democratization of visual media. The average person can create images which rival and compete with major production houses. There's substantial cost savings in producing visual media, editing, and storytelling options, even in theater, perhaps the last frontier of AI. where there's the possibility, in my opinion, of far more dynamic and immersive stage and sound design. That remains to be seen. Um, our theater friends can chime in and tell us about that. We'll keep an eye out as well for the use of AI in theater. On the con side, there is the danger of impersonality, a flood of so-called AI slop, confusing reality and false realities with propaganda, non-human generated storytelling, as well as significant humanistic and ethical concerns. It is important to say here that the cost to the community, predatory water usage, power consumption usury, top-down profit abuse, as technology consumes human jobs and controlling the technology through front-loaded legislation are all undeniable and critical issues to this ever evolving and fast changing. I can swear to that technology. To put it in a very literary perspective, the lesson of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is illustrative. The lesson of Frankenstein is in guarding against the hubris of unchecked science and technology. Technology must always remain in human control, in our hands. It must never exclude the essential human component. Literature and science inevitably cross paths and may literally complement one another. Each We write papers, articles, and books that help illustrate esoteric data and science. Stephen Hawking and Albert Einstein used complex mathematical equations to reveal the strange conditions in and around black holes. They used narrative to describe what that math looks like. And as we've seen, the use of AI or CGI, which is also a form of AI, which we've all become accustomed uh, to illustrate those concepts even further. All literature, it's important to remember, is an exploration of existence and a declaration of love. Love is what gives context and value to that existence. Science ultimately is the search for why we exist. Both Both, like the math of science, grew from our earliest storytelling traditions. Writing was first invented as a tool for accounting. The organization of accounting for the number of sheep or bales of grain was perfect for organizing for the storyteller and a boon for leaders who learned that they could wield immense power and control through the intersection of religion and storytelling. Some of that control was necessary to the ever growing and better organized communities. Some was not. But science, like literature, must always possess the component of compassion, ethics, and empathy. Without those things, it's a cold, cruel, and sociopathic endeavor by design. That is precisely the precipice that humanity finds itself perched upon and ready to fling itself into that void with the artificial intelligence. Make no mistake, it is a revolution. The rise of AI is certainly as significant an innovation as the internet and the computer. Whether or not it is a Frankenstein monster or a valuable asset must be of human choosing. And it must be of all of our choosing, not left to the views or the profit motives or the hubris of a few. Artistically, the human mind has always ascended towards erasing the illusion between fantasy and reality. That's just the way it is. Two-dimensional representation of our physical world once represented a significant leap of faith. Storytelling was gestural and emotive. Now it was figurative and representational. Every early storytellers experimented with overlapping lines in cave walls and designs carved on flipstones to give the illusion of volume, multiple dimension, and motion. Storytelling was always about exploring the illusion of reality, but at its core, in storytelling and art, the human and human conscience must predominate. That, however, does not or should not exclude the use of AI as a tool, but always with necessary guardrails. Just as the canvas proliferated and significantly lowered the cost for the artist over the fresco, or the hieroglyph was supplanted by the scroll, then the codex, and ultimately the book, these technologies became inevitable. AI is poised to overtake the film industry, revolutionize publishing, the way news and information is disseminated, and even change our perceptions of reality. Fight it all you want, but the tech cat is already out of the bag. The deals have been inked, powerful appetites whetted, and the checks cashed. Major investments in this technology will transform our world and only underscore the unprecedented nature and broad application of this technology. To be honest, growing up on the original Star Trek, the rise of computers, cell phones, sliding doors at the Walgreens, and commonly accessible technology was long awaited. I'm comfortable in that space, if a little bit reticent. I rushed to afford those first unwieldy PCs. And I embraced Word and PowerPoint, editing software, cut and paste, uh, and moved aggressively from film photography to digital and now AI as an amending tool for expression and realization of my creativity. It's not a replacement, it's a tool. As a published author, I thrill over writing and editing stories without reams of paper and cartridges of ink. I can't tell you the last time I actually printed something uh, on we don't even have a printer here at the house. So while Lindsay's away, I thought that I would share a little bit of insight that I've gained working in AI day after day for the last several years. Here are some of the uses that I've found for this nascent and ever evolving technology, and it is evolving at a record pace. I hope you enjoy. This piece began as a pen and ink wash and then an oil painting. Another sketch of a French soldier lynched for looting began as a pencil sketch in a travel journal. I used AI and photo editing programs to realize this final image. AI isn't perfect. Note the third arm in this piece. But it can add a photorealistic three-dimensional quality like this original oil composition reimagined through AI. If you have a high output, a sketch can inform prompts to generate, together with Photoshop and photo editing software, the intended result, or a sculptural quality like this figure from a pencil sketch for a collage. AI can be a great tool for visualizing your character. My first novel, Broken, began as a short story about Haley Morgan, based upon a man who claimed to have survived the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald on Lake Superior in 1975. With AI, you can bring the characters to life and watch them move, even speak. They exist within their environment. That's important as most people are visual learners. You may create videos with your characters and have them tell their story, much as I am doing with my Substack series, The Adventures of Oliver the Talking Cat. It can be rather tough, after all, to find a real talking cat. The visual storytelling possibilities are endless. In my ongoing Star Trek inspired series, Fugitives, AI makes it possible to create visuals previously impossible or cost prohibitive. In this scene, I began with an image to build in astronomical accuracy. I added a color corrected Enterprise using PowerPoint and then animated the scene using AI. The characters are brought to life like my heroine Morgan, or Nelson Kirk, the ancestor of James Kirk, who finds herself a fugitive after a Romulan coup seizes control over the Federation. And meet Greta, the love interest in Book 1 of my time travel trilogy, The Assassination of Baby Hitler, a love story. We can visualize Greta in 19th century Munich. Through AI, I can age Greta. I can even depict her with a tragic history and make decisions about what works best for that character. Darby is my time-traveling protagonist. Through Greta, we meet historical figures, young Einstein, and we are introduced to the artist Josef Bloch before he was ultimately persecuted and starved by the Nazis. The possibilities are now only limited by your imagination. The historic Battle of Pavia, 1530. I've spent years researching the origins of my family. The earliest known direct ancestor wrote the first medical book on gambling addiction sometime around 1570. His name was Paschasius Turk. Paschasius was born around 1530 in a village in Flanders, Belgium, and attended the University of Pavia just a few years after that historic battle. He would receive his doctorate at the newly opened University of Leiden in Germany. There are only two known images of Paschasius, one from an illustration of his book and the other in an etching with his wife in the village square of Bergen op Zoom by friend and artist Hans Boll in the late 16th century. During the 80 Years' War, Paschasius fled to Bergen op Zoom in the Netherlands and helped save the life of the father of Dutch independence, William of Orange, following an assassination attempt. His grandson would emigrate to New Amsterdam, later New York, in the mid-1650s. His progeny would move to a plot of land north of Lake Oneida near Constantia, New York. That's where I picked the trail of my great-great-grandfather, Henry, who was born around 1830. Henry worked putting in railway lines in Ohio, where he met and married a 16-year-old runaway from Pennsylvania named Rebecca. Now, with several small children, including my great-grandfather, Grant, the family migrated to Hermansville, a timber town in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. It is at Hermansville that the story takes a tragic turn. Old, dying, and penniless, Henry abandons the family for relatives in central Wisconsin. Rebecca would end her days in a sanitarium in Menominee, Michigan, and would be buried in a pauper's grave at a cemetery overlooking the Menominee River. Grant drifted alone to northwest Iowa. These are images of my grandparents, John and Joanne, in Emmitsburg, Iowa, on their wedding day in 1923. AI brought to life many of those historic views, helping to bridge the gap between generations. There are applications in history where color and photorealism makes that history even more compelling and accessible. This is an image I took during the Bosnian conflict in 1994. I've been thinking a lot about fascist movements lately. Here is a sketch of the climax of Hitler's 1923 putsch. It feels more visceral as a photorealistic image. and finally in color, or maybe bringing Abraham Lincoln to life is a bit more comforting. And absolutely, there is a cautionary when animating historical figures and events. We may extrapolate those intrinsically human moments, or a step or two of marching soldiers, but even here the decisions are entirely subjective either to the program or to the creator. Even first-hand memory can fade and make extrapolation subjective and false. In 1994, I crossed the front lines into besieged Sarajevo through a half-mile long tunnel. The following day, I made this sketch in my journal. AI helped bring part of that back to vivid life, but it can never compare to the trauma of that embattled passage. I described it in narrative form in my wartime memoir, Everything for Love, underscoring the power and necessity of the human storyteller. How many of us have visited an art museum and fantasized about stepping into a Renaissance painting, a Degas, Camille Pissarro, or Van Gogh scene? Gustave Courbet's giant 1877 painting, Paris Street, Rainy Day, is a focal point of Chicago's Art Institute. I know it well. Or how about eavesdropping upon Nighthawks, painted in 1942 by Edward Hopper, a quintessentially American work of art? Or perhaps the surrealist whimsy of Rene Magritte's Time Transfixed from 1938. I was drawn to animate the scandalous Admiral Keynes, painted in 1905 by American artist William Glockens. In this piece, the proprietor's wife shares a drink with James B. Moore, a wealthy playboy and restaurateur, while Glockens' wife, Edith, and art critic Charles Fitzgerald are reflected in the mirror behind them.
Stay tuned for more, well, actually, with Lindsay and Bill after this quick break.
Books are adventure and discovery, and books can heal. When you open that door, like life, just imagine what awaits. I'm Lindsay Schultz, owner of the Spine Bookshop in Smyrna, Tennessee. I'm also an author and book dragon, and keeper of the Banned Book Brigade. Visit us online at thespinebookshop.com or call 615-768-9833. Illuminate your mind. The Spine Bookshop. Thespinebookshop.com. We match books to people.
Hey folks, before we go, Lindsay and I are asking for a little bit of help. We both care deeply about books. Lindsay and I became friends over her work fighting against book bans in her home state of Tennessee. We've written a play about book bans titled, This Play Might Offend You, and we want to bring it to the stage. This play will get national attention. We also want this play to be free. We want to make a difference in this space. Lindsay and I also understand that everyone is coming up a little bit short these days. If that's you, no worries. And we hope things turn around for everyone soon. That's a big reason why we began, well, actually, in the first place. In that case, we hope that you would please share the show and the link to our fundraiser. So we booked a theater and just need to pay for it. Not a lot, but more than two working class mooks can shoulder alone. At the end of this message, and in the notes, I have posted a link to our GoFundMe. If you can spare a couple of dollars, it's greatly appreciated. If you can't, again, please share the link. Thank you. From Lindsay and me.
And now, back to the show.
Okay, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this cautionary romp through the possibilities of AI. I didn't want to gloss over the perils, but if we seize control of this fast evolving technology, we can better define the rules that must govern it. Leave your comments below, and please like the program and share it with your social community. Lindsay and I are working to bring you something a little bit different. You can find us on Facebook, wcturk.substack.com, YouTube, in an NSA file somewhere, I'm sure, and on Blue Sky. Until next time, for Lindsay and me, the history of tomorrow is written by our collective hand today.
I am Ray Bradbury, writer of books, August 1920 to June 5th, 2012. A hard day, at least for me. I wrote Fahrenheit 451 because of my concerns about the threat of burning books in the United States. That was in 1953. Later, the book became a commentary on how mass media reduces interest in reading literature. Virtual book burning. I would never have dared dream my beloved nation would purge books from schools and libraries from the novel. The books are to remind us what asses and fool we are. They're Caesar's Praetorian Guard, whispering as the parade roars down the avenue. Remember, Caesar, thou art mortal.
Stupid, stupid.